This video will show you how to make a layout, which is sort of a nice, finished, polished way to share your map. Here I'm using a project called Layout Practice, and I'll just give you a quick orientation to the data you're looking at. In brown, we have the outline of the Republic of Ireland, and the blue points represent hospital locations. I've then done a drive time analysis and a walk time analysis showing regions that are within 30 and 60-minute drive of a hospital. And then if we really zoom down in orange, we have areas that are within 30 and 60-minute walk of a hospital. And you'll notice that the map looks pretty good for the drive time polygons when you're zoomed out at this scale, but you almost can't see those walking zones. The hospitals obscure them and they're so small. So what I'd really like to do is make a finished map document that has two panels in it. One that shows all these green drive time polygons, and then a second box that's zoomed in maybe to the greater Dublin area here that I've marked off, that can show some of the walk time polygons in contrast. That type of map where you show a big region for contrast and then focus in on a smaller study area, that's called an inset map. Anyway, to do this, we need to create a new object called a layout. A layout is similar to a map, but whereas the map is the data analysis exploration environment, the layout is really for finished public communication. So let's create a layout. We're going to go to the Insert ribbon, and here next to New Map you'll see a choice called New Layout. The first thing we're asked to pick is what kind of paper we're going to put this on. And that really matters because maps ultimately are meant to be printed. I know we share them online all the time now, but I certainly have put a map into, a map gallery that was printed on big poster paper. For our map, I think because we're going to have side-by-side panels, we want something that is a landscape type orientation. I think maybe I'll just choose letter landscape for now. I'm trying to decide if I want a little more room. Maybe I'll try legal landscape just to have something a little bit wider. Okay, so here is my layout and my blank piece of paper. And what we need to do is move this image of Ireland from the data analysis map into the layout. And to do that, from the Insert ribbon, we're going to insert a map frame. Click on Map Frame and choose this map. And I will draw a box to hold it. All right, well that's nice, but I have to say Ireland's a little bit off center here. When you have a layout and your cursor is moving around in here, it only controls the piece of paper. So right now I could click and select this box. I could go to the layout navigation tools and, resize things, zoom in a little bit, but this is all with regard to the piece of paper. If I click navigate here, I can pan the piece of paper, but I can't pan inside that box. In order to get access to the content of this box, we need to activate it. Now, it's sort of active when there are these little beads around the outside edge. But really, to activate it, you can either right-click and choose the word activate, or you can get activate up here in the layout menu. And watch what that does to the map image and to the piece of paper. It kind of grays out the piece of paper and brightens the map image. And we have our explore cursor. So we can use it to move the image around. If we wanted to, maybe we need to zoom out just a hair because we were, cutting off the tips. You can explore within this map frame as much as you want, get it exactly the way you like it. You can even go down here and manually set the scale. Like this is 1 to 4.498 million. I could make this like 1 to 4. Let's try 6. No, that would make it smaller. I want to make it a little bit bigger. 400,000. Let's try that. And that just, custom zooms it in a little bit. Anyway, once you get this the way you like it, there's a back arrow in the upper left-hand corner that takes you from being inside that active map frame to back out on the piece of paper where now we're moving the piece of paper and zooming and panning the piece of paper again. Okay. Well, that's a good start. We now have a map on a piece of paper. Let's decorate it. Let's make it look good. Let's put a north arrow on it because north arrows are pretty. Which north arrow do I like? I always like this one. It looks kind of like, I don't know, like the Boy Scouts or something to me. So I'm gonna put it up in the corner here. I'll put a little north arrow. And maybe we'll put a scale bar to show, how many miles or kilometers something is. We could put a legend. Actually, I think I will put a legend. Maybe I'll do that at the end. And we could put some text in here if we want. I can put a text that says something like access to care in Republic of Ireland. And if I want to make that a little bit bigger, I can just double click on it and I'll get, a details page here where I could change the symbol to a different font. What's a nice font? Oh, everybody likes Times New Roman. And a different size. Let's see what that looks like. Access to care in the Republic of Ireland, something like that. And then maybe I don't like where I put that, so I could center it a little bit in the white space. So there's plenty you can do with just one map frame in your layout. But what I want, as I said, what I want to do is I want to have an inset map. I want to be able to focus on this area and just look at the walking time. Look, I can insert another map frame. If I wanted to, I could do this. I could insert another map frame and zoom it in there. But if I decide that I don't want to show the same data layers in the inset that I'm showing in the big map, if I want to turn those green drive times off and just look at the orange walk times, I can't do that having these both based on the same map. Instead, what I have to do is make another copy of this map. Okay. I think probably the best way to do that, we could insert a new map, we could copy over all these layers, but probably the fastest way to make a copy of this map is from the catalog. If we go into the catalog and go to Maps, we can right-click, copy, and then paste another copy of this map. And I'm going to slow click and rename it. I'll call this something like Inset. Let me open it. And yeah, inset looks exactly the same as map looks. There's no difference. But now we can make them different. I could turn off these green drive times, for example. All right, let's go back to my layout. I'm going to dispose of this map frame. I don't want this, so let me delete it. Now when I go to insert a new map frame, I have two choices. I have the original map, and then I have the inset map. I'll pick the inset map, and I'll draw a nice big box here to hold the inset map. And now I have the freedom, if I want, I can zoom down more into this greater Dublin area. So let me right click and activate it. And I'll shift and zoom so that we can really get a good look at that walk time around those urban hospitals. And then I'll back out of the layout. So that's how to show. You have to have a second map up top if you want to show different data layers in your two frames. All right, let's make this even a little snazzier. I'd like to get rid of these words, these credits. These are credits for, who drew the base map, basically. If you're using the imagery base map, they'll be like what satellites and aerial photography photographed it. It's not wrong to include these credits. I think they're great, but I don't want them in the pane of my map. To remove them, we have to go to this dynamic text choice in the insert ribbon. And under dynamic text, if you scroll down a little, you will see surface layer credits. When you choose surface layer credits, it looks like nothing happens. But you then have the ability to select these surface layer credits and move them wherever you want. Like I could move them to the very bottom of the page here. Maybe I'll put them over here. And sometimes what I like to do is change the text symbol so that they are, well, make them also Times New Roman. And I can make them tiny and gray, so they don't interfere quite so much with, the visual impact of my map. Another thing I can do is if I click on this zoomed in box and then choose scale bar, I can put a scale bar on this one, and I want you to see how they're different. See, maybe I'll move it into the ocean so we can see it a little better. This one is showing the scale for this map because it was created while this map was active, and this one is showing the scale for this map. Okay, so you can do that separately by inserting the scale bar or legend when the map is active. All right, here's another nice thing I can do. Actually, I want room for a legend. Where shall I put the legend? I'll move this up and maybe in. Maybe I'll just move it in and I'll put the legend on the side there. How about that? Okay. I think what I'll do is insert the legend with this pane active because I want to get all the green and all the orange. So legend, I'll click on the legend choice and then draw a box to hold my legend. And inevitably, when your legend shows up, it's kind of a bit of a mess. And we have to work on this. So, under legend in the layouts table of contents, you can turn down the arrow next to the legend and decide which items you actually want to show up in the legend and which you don't. Like, I don't think there's any reason to have the Ireland boundary and Greater Dublin show up. And honestly, since I have 30 minutes and 60 minutes in this one, I don't think I need the cutoff that's the drive times 30. So let me turn off drive times 30. That's a little bit neater. It's getting a little bit better. And then what I will often do is go back to the original map that the legend's based on. And in the table of contents here, I'll slow click on the names and name them what I want them to be called in the legend. So we'll call that hospitals. And maybe I'll call this oops, hold on. Trying to get where I can edit it. You can also go to properties and edit it here. We'll call it walking time zones. That sounds like time zones though. So let's change it to walking zones. How about that? And then I'll call this one, slow click on it and call it driving zones. And when I make the changes here in the map, when I go back to the layout, they show up in the layout here. The other thing I can do is I can double click on the legend itself and have some control over what shows here. For example, I'd rather not see this cutoff. So I think if I dig around in here, let's see, maybe show properties. If I turn off maybe headings, yeah, if I turn off headings, I lose the word cutoff, and that's a little bit tidier. Anyway, that's much better on the legend. I think I'm going to move this in so that miles doesn't hang off the end. Sometimes you can't get this to go where you want it to go. In which case, you can right-click on it and go to nudge. Nudge allows you to just nudge it a tiny bit in one direction. So nudge left might move it in a slightly better way than I can move it by hand. Oh, I forgot to change the fonts in here. I could tell that this is all in Times New Roman and this is all in Tahoma. Well, if we went into the legend properties again, there's a text symbol where we could change to Times New Roman. And that changes most of it. And really, we could do the same thing with the word miles here if we wanted it to be in Times New Roman. Finally, another thing that's nice about an inset map is you can direct the user to where the inset comes from. So, for example, up here in graphics and text, let's see, where is a line? I think we can, yeah, here we go. We can put in a rectangle that shows, exactly the area of this inset. And we can draw lines, say connecting the corners. Something like that to show our users that this is, popped up out of here. I think on these boxes, if you want to, you can even drop a shadow. So if I get the element properties for this inset map One of these allows you to put a small shadow behind it. Okay. And that might give it a little 3D effect, something like that. You know, there's a lot of choices here, and you can spend a lot of time making the layout look exactly the way you like it to. But ultimately, when you're done and you're happy with it, you can go to the Share menu and use Export Layout to get a PDF of this. Now, I don't know which PDF we should use. I guess we'll try flattened PDF because we don't intend to edit it further. Let's do that. We'll put it on my desktop. Export. All right, and now let's go examine what that export looked like. So let me close this. And it should be on my desktop here, layout.pdf. Oh, I don't care what you open it with. Just open it with something. And there we go. And I mean, it probably goes without saying, but because this is a PDF, it's no longer, you can't interact with it anymore, right? You can't zoom anything, you can't move anything, you can't pan anything, but it looks nice. And, you know, you could send this to a colleague and be proud of the map that you produced. All right, I hope that has given you a little insight into how to make a nice finished layout.